Stone tool analysis is a method of cataloguing attributes about artefacts to reveal information about the people who made and used them.
We can get a really wide range of information from stone tools. We can first of all look at things like the raw materials from which they were made, so the different kinds of stone. And these occur in different locations in the landscape, reflecting the geology of the landscape. And people obviously travelled and collected these stones in order to make sharp edges for things like slicing and cutting and scraping, or they sometimes collected stones that were better for things like grinding. This is basalt from a volcano, and this was a softer stone that they could use to shape into an axe. Or sometimes they would select things like sandstone, which is a softer stone, perfect for grinding up seeds and plant foods. So if we know where people went to collect these stones and how they moved them around the landscape, traded them, acquired them, stockpiled them, then we can reconstruct how people moved around the landscape. And of course, Aboriginal people, hunter-gatherers, they moved all the time through the landscape.
Stone tools can be made from a variety of different materials and can be found almost anywhere across the landscape.
If someone sits and flakes off a stone, a little flake off the edge of a core like this, that stone will essentially sit there forevermore. It will never break down. It may wash around or move or get buried, but it will basically be there forever. So we can look at the concentration of stone tools in the landscape, how many there are and how close they are, how closely clumped they are, to reconstruct how many people might have been living there, how long they spent there. We can also, if we know the exact location of some of the rarer raw materials, we can even look at things like trade. So if we have very high quality stones that we know were highly sought after, these could be traded over the landscape. And things like these axes, these were sometimes traded from places like Mount Isa all the way down into southern Queensland and even across the border. Or things like these large stone blades. These come from important quarries up in the Northern Territory, and they were traded over thousands of kilometres as well.
Studying stone artefacts tells a unique story of how people lived in the past by examining the size and shape, the raw material, and distinctive attributes left on the surface.
So the things that we can typically look at are, for instance, whether it has this distinctive bulb of percussion. So if you look at that side on, you can see there's a protuberance, an area that sticks out on the surface, and it's smooth and bulbous, and that's the bulb of percussion. And we can also see things like these ripples. So these are all what we call fracture features, or characteristics of a surface that results from having been struck off a block of stone like this one. So it's been struck here, and at the exact point at which it was struck, we can see a little cone of force coming out. And that, combined with the bulb of percussion, tells us this was struck by human hand. And we can also see on the core the imprint left behind from where that big flake was taken off. So that's how we can tell if it's been flaked, and natural stones just don't have those characteristics on them. They've got lots of old nicks and breaks and flat surfaces, but unless we can see that bulb of percussion and those points of crushing where it was struck, we can't be sure that that was a stone artefact, and we call that a natural rock.
Stone tool analysis plays a crucial role in enhancing our knowledge of the past through archaeological research and cultural heritage management.
Stone tools and stone artefact analysis is really important in things like heritage work as well, where we're constantly going out in the advance of, say, development or a new road or a new housing development, seeing what heritage remains in the landscape. So recording on the surface, doing a survey, excavating below the ground to see if there's anything beneath the ground, and typically there are large numbers of these things. So an analyst will be involved at that stage to work out, well, what kinds of artefacts do you have? How old would they likely be? Is it a really important site with lots of evidence? Is it a really unique site, maybe with unusual stone tool types that we don't see very often? So these are the kinds of analyses that someone who has an interest in lithics and some skills in stone tool analysis will be engaged to perform.
Stone artefact analysis provides a unique window to understanding the lives of the Aboriginal ancestors in Australia.
Well, I'm fascinated in stone tools because, one, anything that we pick up that we know is a stone tool, we know it was flaked by a person in the past. So it's kind of an intimate link to an event that happened in the past. Someone picked up that stone, they chose it for a reason, maybe transported it a long way, It's probably covered in their sweat. When they flaked it, they might have cut themselves. It's probably even covered in their blood. Then they would have probably done things like glue it to a handle, used it for a period of time, resharpened it, and so on. So it has its own whole life history. And we can kind of reconstruct that. So it's a window on the past in that way. We know that our ancestors have been making these for a very, very long time indeed. And it gives us a glimpse into how they did things in the past and how things changed through time, how things got maybe more sophisticated, or they maybe came up with new techniques that they didn't know previously. Unraveling that history is really fascinating.